have you ever been watching a courtroom drama and the prosecutor just will not let go of the defendant's motive? Well, it turns out that obsession is at the very heart of a huge legal divide. So today, we're going to dive into motive versus intent and how these two little words actually reveal two completely different ideas about what justice even means.
Okay, so picture this. You've got a victim, you've got a weapon. Is that enough to convict somebody? The answer is, well, it's a classic, it depends. And what it depends on is something we can't actually see. What was going on inside the suspect's mind? To figure that out, we need to get a handle on two really key legal tools.
And to really get to the bottom of this whole thing, we've got to define our terms. See, in the legal world, the tools they use to dissect a crime are intent and motive. Now, you might think they're interchangeable, but believe me, in a courtroom, the difference between them can literally mean the difference between a guilty verdict and walking free.
First up, let's talk about intent. You'll probably hear lawyers call it mens rea. That's just fancy Latin for the guilty mind. This is all about the what. What was the person's mental state at the very moment they acted? Did they consciously, deliberately decide to do the thing the law says you can't do? And let me be super clear. This isn't optional. For most serious crimes, if the prosecution can't prove intent, there is no conviction. Case closed.
Now, let's switch over to motive. This is the juicy stuff, right? This is the why. Was it all about greed, revenge, jealousy? Motive is the backstory. It's the emotional engine that drives the whole crime. But, and this is so important to get, while it tells us why someone might have decided to act, it's not actually a required ingredient of the crime itself. I mean, this table just lays it all out in black and white. Look at how different these are. Legally speaking, intent is a must-have. Motive is just a nice-to-have. Intent answers what was in their head, while motive is all about the why. And here's the real bottom line. A prosecutor can completely fail to prove a motive and still get a conviction. But if they can't prove intent, the case is dead in the water. The accused walks.
Okay, let me give you a perfect, real-world example. Imagine you're speeding to the hospital because your child is about to be born. Your motive is amazing, it's noble, right? But what was your intent? You fully intended to press that gas pedal down and break the speed limit. The law draws a clean line between the two. Your wonderful why doesn't just erase the unlawful what. Sorry, you're still getting that speeding ticket.
So, okay, how do different legal systems actually use this stuff? Let's start with what's called common law. This is what you'll find in places like the United States and the United Kingdom. Here, even though motive isn't technically required by the law, it's used as an incredibly powerful storytelling tool.
So, you might be asking, if motive isn't required, why on earth do we hear about it so much in these courtrooms? Well, it's because a prosecutor's job is to convince a jury of regular people. And motive helps them tell a story that makes sense. It answers that little voice in the back of a juror's head asking, but why would this person do something like that? It helps point to the right suspect. And, maybe most importantly, it helps convince the jury that the act wasn't just some horrible, tragic accident.
You know, this quote just hits the nail on the head. We can't actually crack open someone's skull and see their intent, right? We have to guess. We have to infer it from all the circumstances. And motive is often the most powerful piece of the puzzle that lets us build that inference. The why makes the what feel real and believable. And here's exactly how that chain works in practice. So, step 1, you start with the basic action. A person is shot. By itself, that could be anything, right? Murder, an accident, self-defense, who knows? Now, step 2, add the motive. The suspect stands to gain a massive insurance payout. All of a sudden, you can feel the pieces just click into place. The final step, the inference that the shooter actually intended to kill, becomes so much stronger and way harder to argue against.
All right, let's hop on a plane and head over to Denmark, because there we see a completely different way of thinking. In the Danish legal system, which is part of a tradition called civil law, motive plays a totally different role. See, over there, it's not really about proving guilt at all. It's about deciding just how serious the crime really was.
So here's the huge difference in Denmark. The court only really digs into motive after they've already decided the person is guilty based on their intent. Then the why comes into play to help figure out the punishment. A crime that's driven by something like pure greed or hatred is seen as way worse, and it'll get you a harsher sentence. But a crime driven by something like desperation or fear, well, that might be seen as more tragic, and it could lead to a lighter punishment.
And this, of course, raises a massive question. We've got two very sophisticated legal systems, both trying to get to justice. But they use this key piece of human psychology in completely opposite ways. Why? Well, the answer goes deep.
right into a philosophical split over what the ultimate goal of a trial even is. And this is where we get to the real philosophical heart of the whole thing. Is a court's primary job to uncover the absolute objective truth of what happened? Or is its job to run a perfectly fair contest and just assume that the truth will bubble up to the surface from that?
So the Danish system is all about finding what they call the material truth, what actually happened, factually. The court is like an investigator. Common law, on the other hand, is much more focused on procedural truth. It basically sets up a fair fight between two opposing sides, and the truth is simply whatever side can prove its case within the very strict rules of the game.
And you can see how these different philosophies totally change how a courtroom feels. In Denmark, the judge is an active investigator, digging for facts, asking questions. In a common law court, the judge is much more like a passive referee in a boxing match, just making sure both sides play by the rules. This is why common law has all these complex rules about evidence that can actually keep true factual evidence out of court if it was obtained unfairly. The process, the fairness of the fight, is sometimes valued even more than the raw truth itself.
And that really leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? What is the best way to get to justice? Is it a system that is laser-focused on finding the facts no matter what it takes? Or is it a system that's completely obsessed with fairness and procedure, believing that's the only real way to guarantee a just outcome? There's no easy answer here, but understanding that difference is absolutely key to understanding how justice works all around the world.